You better watch out if your enemies are road ahead of full prophecy to be the greatest beast the world has ever seen. I feed him every day like the bones clean. I feed him all the hate and he goes me. And he gets caught real big, pissed off quick. And if you cross him, you might drop dead. Metaphorically, of course, settling the score. Never getting bored, lots of blood and gore. Always wanting more freedom from the source. They don't really listen until they feel it worth their blood in. If you start shit, you be hard-lived in the darkness. Torn apart quick, you let scars rip. You be chewed up and discarded. And this world ain't right, won't accept it. Negative energy, I expect it. Once it's in your mind, it's infectious. So fight for your life and reject it.
No matter what your political belief, the hard fact is that protesting, sometimes violently, is ingrained in both modern American society as well as in the fundamental bedrock of our country. It has been etched in our national soul by founding fathers and mothers, abolitionists and slaves, military, and spiritual leaders alike. Thomas Jefferson, in a 1787 letter to James Madison, wrote, "I hold it that a little rebellion now and then is a good thing and is as necessary in the political world as storms in the physical." There have been no less than 25 major insurrections since the founding of the United States in 1776. Native Americans, immigrant Americans, slaves, and freedmen alike have protested and rebelled over simple things like stamps and tea, corn, whiskey, and coal. Hundreds of thousands of Americans have died for something larger than themselves, for freedom, first from British tyranny and then to end slavery. And more die every year in the continuous pursuit of equality, civil rights, and the ability to live without fear. Frederick Douglass, in an essay written in 1866, said, "The thing worse than rebellion is the thing that causes rebellion." While unchecked and chaotic violent protests can lead to more violence, it is so important for each and every one of us to question why this protest is occurring in the first place, because understanding and hopefully empathizing with that action may actually be the only avenue toward true and lasting American change.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Voice of Reason. Tonight's episode is all about protesting, because in the next week and a half, Donald Trump is going to find out exactly how many Americans are not happy with how he is running the administration. Not only, right? So we have the one in DC on the 6th, which again, your boy got back. Media access passes. So thanks to your donations, I went ahead and ordered some very nice mobile microphones. I even ordered a new tripod so I don't look absolutely ridiculous there holding my phone.
Just somewhat ridiculous.
I want to look as professional as possible. I'm getting business cards made up because we're quite literally going to be in the media tent with the actual, like, I'm going to have media credentials. Yo, it's crazy.
That's
so we're so excited. And the guest that is going to be on our show tonight, she is going to join me. She is the DC rep for the organization we've been working with, Fight Against Fascism, the one we did the rally with on April 30th. They're also planning on holding a rally in Atlantic City for No King's Day that they're extremely excited about. And she is the DC contact. And I messaged her the other day. I'm like, hey, good news. I'm like, we got media passes. And she's like, what do we do with the media passes? I was like, I have no fucking clue, but we'll figure it out.
Just look like you know what you're doing.
Right. It's going to be a lot of fun, guys. So Friday, I am going to be live streaming the entire thing. If anything, I'm going to be trying to live stream from like noon. It starts till 2:00. But since we're in the media tent, I'm not really sure how that works, honestly. First time ever. So I'm leaving my house in Pennsylvania at like 5, 6 in the morning. I should get to DC like 9, 10 o'clock. That should give me enough time to scout everything out, start introducing myself to people before it gets too busy. But there
is what they call it.
Yeah. I call it networking. So I'm very, very excited. This will be quite honestly the biggest moment of my life. And the biggest moment that our channel has ever had, our biggest opportunity, because we are now officially part of the media, so to speak, at least when it comes to Friday.
I'll take it.
Right. So the last year and a half we've been working on this. It's kind of all the hard work and all the time. Like you guys have been seeing me stream. I stream like every day for the last 3 weeks in a row now, trying to just make something happen because I want this year to be our year. And I think all our hard work is starting to pay off. We've met some amazing people along the way. You know what I mean? And yeah, we've had tons and tons of fun. So, all right.
Pamela.
Don't get bougie. No, never want. Don't worry about me, Pamela. That's the last thing.
Oh
If
man.
I ever started making, like, to me, money is the only point of having money to me is like being able to help other people. Like, I don't understand the obsession with
Food,
hoarding money.
roof, help people.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't understand what the purpose of hoarding money is, like, especially when
They
you
think
have
they're
so much of it.
dragons.
Like, you really need more that you have to take it away
They
from us, the
literally
ones that
see
don't have it.
themselves as dragons sitting on a hoard. Like, this
Yeah.
is mine. Okay.
All right.
right.
So before we bring Candace on, our guest, who she was on Sunday with all the rest of Fight Against Fascism, we will be, just so you guys know. All right. So if you guys want any more information on Fight Against Fascism and the work that they are doing, please go to visit fightagainstfascism.org. Pretty easy to remember. It is literally FAFO.
And it is the world we are currently living in.
Right. It is appropriate. Tom is definitely a good leader for that organization. His wife, Jasmine, does a lot of work behind the scenes and is incredibly passionate about it.
Yep.
And the one we are going to is going to be this Friday. That is the Unite for Veterans rally in DC on the 6th. Newsweek is reporting that tens of thousands of people are expected to show up. And again, your boy and our guest, let me bring her back on the stage.
That's a
here.
good segue. Wow.
Candace will be right there with me. We are media. You woke up today, yesterday, and you did not know you were going to be media officially.
Congratulations, you are media.
I know, right?
I told her though, I was like, I need backup. I'm nervous. I need backup for real. So welcome back to the show. It is so good to have you on. We've been talking about doing this since like April 30th, since I first ran up to you like a fanboy, and I was like, I gotta talk to you. And then, so thank you for coming on and giving us an hour of your time. We have a great show lined up. We want to talk all about protesting and why it's important and the history of protesting in America. And I think it's important as a country for us to heal, that we have to accept that racism in history is literally ingrained into America's DNA. And
it's interesting, like, to heal. I think part of healing is seeing each other stand up for the morals that we all agree on. We just seem to have put I'm not trying to make a pun, but like we've put these different hats on, red hats, and like we've separated each other by like these superficial things that we're told to classify each other by. And that's what they keep us separate. That's the mechanism. The more we all speak up, the more we see each other speaking up, the more you realize you are right to think this is wrong. Fascism is wrong, and protesting is the way we do it. Look, in France, if they raise the price of a loaf of bread 3 cents, they riot. Like,
I know, right?
With the French, don't. Okay. South Korea recently rioted when their president was like, "I'm going to declare martial law." They were like, "The fuck you are!" They kicked him out of there. So, like, protesting is the first line of defense for free speech. Okay, and America has a very long tradition. You saw it on opening video. We've had many insurrections, let alone protests, uprising, riots. Now, Voice of Reason, as always, will never condone violence. But sometimes passions and rights gets pushed to the breaking point and bad things happen. And what protesting does is that is the first line of defense against violence. Because we are trying to speak out, and if they won't hear us, okay, fine, we'll see what happens. But right now is our time to scream as loud as we can. And Candace, from the last protest, the one you're going to, the ones that we see coming for No King's Day, have you been part of protesting? Has that been a part of your life, or is this something new to you? And what do you look at protesting as?
So a long time ago, I remember my mom, she went to a protest, but I think it was something that was community based. Okay. And I barely remember it, but I remember it enough that I was there. And I think that was my first taste of it. But as I got older, I started finding my voice, and I started seeing how I think afraid that people are to speak up. A lot of people, when we see things going wrong, a lot of people, it's like the bystander intervention thing, like we need more people to speak up to say something, but a lot of people don't have that. So I started discovering my voice helps other people speak up. I inspire people to speak up. And I discovered that because the more I speak up, the more other people do. So I'm almost 40. The past 20 years have been spent gathering intel. And now it's like, with everything going on with the administration and myself as a veteran, with all of the benefits that we have are being cut, our health care is a big thing, especially when it comes to mental health for us.
Yep. Which is already the least amount they spend on anything.
Absolutely. And it's so important for us, where I see an opportunity where I can not only myself speak up, but empower everyone else to speak up. That just kind of, when you light the fire, it goes, because when things don't change, then more people start to join the message, more people start to join the protest, and it starts to up the ante. So I really didn't have much of a background, but I'm looking to have a large background of protest.
So, you caught the protest bug. So Jeremy and I, for a while now, man, we want to go to protests, not because of some, like, we want to be seen there. We just wanted to experience what it felt like to be around people being vocal about their opposition to the destruction of our democracy. And if that's what brings people together, if we can't come together over the fact that people should be able to marry who they want, people should be able to identify as themselves, all of those things, if we can't get people to get together on that, can we at least protect some of our more basic freedoms? Because even those are at risk. Okay.
True.
And one of the things that we laughed about, we have been and still do, is like, do people listen to us? So to your point about becoming an inspiration, I'll speak for myself. I'm no inspiration, but I want to be able to give people information that can inspire them. That's how I look at it. And that's why we've fallen in love with bringing protests live to people, is because when you see it, when you're there and you feel it, you're like, wow, I am not alone. We just want people to see that. And I think that's the most important message that protesting could ever give, is you are not alone. They think on the right that they have this moral superiority. They don't. They're monsters. Okay. We know that we are right because we are fighting for justice and democracy. And the more people that speak it and say those words, the more likely protests will succeed.
Right. And I think the one thing that I like, especially that I like about your videos, is you share your personal stories. Like you're putting yourself out there, because obviously other people are probably going through the same thing that you're going through, or something very similar. And a lot of times in this world full of people, it's not hard to feel like you're alone in it. You know what I mean? Anybody who's ever suffered with depression understands it. You know what I mean? So I can it's hard for me to put myself out there and share personal stories. I don't do it very often. I do it more on the show than I do on like social media. But no, I think that's a good way to help others, even not just the protesting part of it, but just regular everyday situations that most people go through.
We're all flawed. We all have histories. We are all scared. We are all unsure. And we are all positive that something bad is going on in this country. And again, if protesting that regime is what brings us together and moves us forward as a country, I don't want to say it was worth it, because it's never going to be worth what this is. It will never have been worth going through this, because clearly we're too dumb and had to touch the stove as a society. But like, if we can move past this, fine. At least it won't have been for nothing. It's just a shame we have to go through this. Like, it's disgusting what people are going through. So towards the end of the show, I want to get more into specifically what you guys are going to be doing at the protest, let people know what to expect. But I did want to make today about a little brief history of protests. So, Jeremy, we ready to go? We got anything else?
Yes, please. Go ahead. Yeah, I was just making sure we're streaming on.
Okay. Have your tacos.
Oh, wait.
Let's go, Taco.
Apparently, he is so pissed at that.
And I'm hoping tens of thousands of people start chanting that on Friday. I'm just hoping.
Oh, man. Please. Everyone should just wear a taco hat.
Oh
my God. Oh, just bring all kinds of taco merch. Oh, it's going to be so good.
We should do a big collection to send Taco Bell there on like DoorDash, like thousands of tacos just to the White House.
Frank delivered the White House. That'd be great.
Oh, man. All right. Okay. So, as I said, today we're going to go over a brief history of American protests. For the first several panels I got a lot of this information from a article on Stacker from 3 years ago, but I also took the time to look up some of this stuff. This isn't a bullshit article. This is history. So I'm going to go through some protests that you may have heard of, some of you may not have heard of, but I think I picked ones that are fairly interesting in America's history. So in 1688, the Germantown Quaker petition against slavery. This is interesting. 1688. Think about that. A group of Quakers in Germantown, Pennsylvania, created the first written protest against slavery in the New World. According to the Germantown Mennonite Historic Trust, the group saw the enslavement of others as a contradiction to its religious values and its history of fleeing oppression from the British. Sadly, the petition was not formally accepted by the higher governing bodies of the Quakers, but enslavement was eventually banned within the Quaker community in 1776. Okay, so the year our country was founded, they're like, fuck off, we don't want slavery. And the rest of the country was like, we're good with it for another, like, little bit. We're cool.
Yeah.
Have either of you heard of that? I never heard of that.
No, I've never heard that story at all.
But it goes to show you, you know, look, I'm not saying the Quakers back then would have been like, sure, be gay. They wouldn't have, okay? And it's not like they were like, yeah, women, you have a say in things. Okay, we understand the world was totally fucked up. That was backwards. At least they knew slavery was wrong. Like, at least they knew slavery was wrong. At least they had that about them.
They did.
In 1688, the British didn't care. They were making money off of it. Our country wasn't even formed yet, so everyone here was basically a privateer making money off the shipment of humans and labor across the ocean. That's what it was. And the Quakers were like, yo.
I forget who it is. Candace, I don't know if you ever heard of him. Tim Wise.
Is that white dude?
Yeah, white guy. He's an anti-racist.
He never remember his name.
Writes books that doesn't speak, but he actually explains racism, how racism was like actually manufactured in America, because he explains it like, like, you know, they're what, like, we didn't look in Europe, we weren't looking at other white people going, oh, those are white people, you know what I mean? Like, but they needed a reason because they saw all the poor, like Italians and other people coming from Europe, Irish, and then they realized that, oh shit, there's a lot more people that we are oppressing than there is of us. So they created racism in a way for the control society,
form of racism.
Because they understood back then that unity is strength. And if they were able to keep the population divided over, in that case, they chose skin color, which is insane. They would be able to control us. And they have been ever since. I mean, let's be honest. They've controlled us as a population ever since, finding ways to keep us divided. And I think that's the other thing about protests is you'll see like so many different communities coming together. You'll even see Trump supporters out there protesting in the streets. It's happening. Yeah. Well, I've actually spoken to him.
It's funny, Jeremy, because you kind of say like seeing the effects of it and what's happening. It's funny. I put a little effort. Our brains are always like, I put an effort into the ones I chose to highlight today and the time periods, because you're going to see gradually how it impacted history. Protests that at the time people were like, fuck is this? And now it's like, oh my God, that changed the world. So I started with one no one's heard of, but think about that argument at that early. Let's see what the next one is. Oh, gee. But Boston Tea Party was a protest. It was a boycott, a protest, a riot, all wrapped in one. 1773, protesters flooded Griffin's Wharf in Boston on a dreary December evening in 1773 to demonstrate against the Tea Act, which gave the British government an effective monopoly on selling tea in the colonies. People dumped hundreds of chests of tea from the British East India Company into the water. An act of defiance against British rule without representation. I don't know that we all know the story, Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Kansas, I think you would agree that if people back then could protest over fucking tea, I think now is an appropriate time for us to be hitting the streets. Wouldn't you agree?
We should have did it the first week.
Right.
To be honest with you, as soon as the election, we should have did it the first day.
I agree.
I don't know.
I 100% agree.
And kind of just unfold into this. What the hell is this? So we should have been on it at the second they said he was elected. The next day, everyone should have been.
I got to tell you, our founders would not have even allowed him to run for president.
No, it's a joke. It's
guy, and I'm going to be a dick here, but I'm not. Like, the guy legitimately, if he can read, reads at like a third grade level. We're talking about in one sentence. He wouldn't have understood one sentence of anything they said. Think about that. Like one word of it. Anyway, all right. What's next? What do we got? Okay. 1848, the Seneca Falls Convention. A group of feminists on July 19th. Anyone else hear that?
Yeah. What is that?
What did you?
I think this is, yeah, I think so. Was that loud? Yeah, okay, we're good. I don't hear it anymore. I hear it a little bit.
I hear like a little
In my computer?
humming.
Could be. It could be. Keep going. You're good. You're good.
My laptop.
So, Seneca Falls Convention, a group of feminists on July 19th, 1848, hosted the first women's rights convention in the U.S. The Seneca Falls Convention in Seneca Falls, New York. Around 300 people assembled to protest the government's unequal treatment of women and to call for women to be granted all the rights and freedoms outlined in the Declaration of Independence. The convention gave the women's rights movement the momentum it needed to pursue suffrage. So, I think what's important to realize there is one of the ways apathy creeps into a society is to go, yeah, but even if we do protest, what's going to happen? And I know that we're at a point now where there's like a standard of humanity and morality that we don't trigger in our society anymore. That back then they did. And having the women protest that at that time was enough to start getting the ball rolling. Now it's a little harder. We need more people. We need to be louder. But the idea that they didn't win anything by protesting, 300 of them, but they set the stage for what would become a movement for them getting suffrage. They knew they had to start somewhere. They knew they had to speak up. I mean, like, we forget that women didn't have the right to vote or have credit cards.
No, we were considered property at one point in time. So it's like from there to now, protesting was necessary.
It was.
That's a great way to put it. Since like this, look, it's not like there haven't been protests. There have, but the way we view protests, or maybe I should say the way the media has stopped elevating the importance of protests. In the 60s, it was either people protesting and hating them or people protesting and hating someone else, okay? We understand no one should have been spitting on soldiers, but the protests that went on still had a purpose, and they were long-lasting. Unfortunately, it became a reactionary movement, and the government seized more power than we will ever see them give up.
Yeah,
60s,
I actually have.
They tried, but
I actually have here. Let's look. I have the Declaration of Independence pulled up, and on there it lists reasons of why they wanted to separate from the crown. Well, for cutting off our trade with all parts of the world, for imposing taxes without our consent.
No taxation without representation. Wait, why aren't the Democrats using that line?
For depriving, in many cases, the benefits of trial by jury. The reasons we are against Donald Trump is literally in the Declaration of Independence, because he's everything that's wrong with a capitalist society, and he obviously does not know what's in the Declaration of Independence because he wants to be the American Clown King.
It's hanging in the Oval Office, the original copy, so he thinks.
For sure. Yeah.
Did
you guys hear
those videos where he oh my God, he unveils the Declaration of Independence?
This is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah. And he's like, oh, look at it, it's beautiful. And the guy's like, yeah, that's it.
Right. And they put a curtain over it too. That's the best part. He's like, look at my curtain.
Yeah, because he's like, it's looking over it. All right. Anyway.
No. Sorry.
Now we're getting into stuff people that have lived right now could have witnessed. Okay. My parents were born in 1955. So if you're over 70, you remember this shit. The Montgomery bus boycott. After Rosa Parks was arrested for refusing to give up her bus seat to a white jackass, the black community in Montgomery, Alabama banded together to boycott the city bus system in December of 55. The boycott lasted more than a year, Target, only ending once a court order forced the Montgomery buses to integrate. The protest thrust Martin Luther King Jr. into a major leadership role of the civil rights movement. Hey, Target, who is consistently saying we are losing money in business and we don't know how to sustain ourselves. Why? Because you thought you knew what three little letters meant. Those letters didn't mean acquiesce to fascism and Donald Trump. And the companies that are standing for their DEI initiatives are doing well. And the companies that have given over to fascism and bent the knee and kissed the ass, they're not doing so well.
You know,
boycotting is a form of protest. I don't have to choose to spend my money at your place. If you think you can say you don't have to make a cake for a gay couple, I don't have to buy shit at Target.
Right. I know they're talking about throwing people in jail for boycotting. Like, what? What are you talking about? I mean, it's as bad as this Peter Thiel thing. They're talking about like literally the thought police from 1984. I mean, they're talking about taking all the data because that was the purpose of Doge. Can we be honest now? That was the whole reason Doge was created. It was a data theft. Yeah. So they could then give it to Peter Thiel. Because I don't know if you probably didn't watch it, Candace, but I did a show the other day, a live stream where I talk about how Elon Musk and all these white rich tech bros are infatuated with a theory called technocracy, where they think white, and this is real. I mean, this is absolutely real. And there's rumors going around that this is the whole point, that they should run the world. White males who have tech and engineering backgrounds, they think that they should run the world and that the world should be run by a monarch CEO. This is real. This is like an actual thing that they believe. And that
guess who started this? Elon.
Right. Musk, then underneath them, they would have like a board of directors and they want to run the country and the world like a company. I'm not even making this stuff up.
You know what's
insane,
the thing that sucks is you can't protest that. You can't put that on a piece of cardboard. You can't explain.
I know it's like people are who's going to believe me.
But that's the balance, right? Like, okay, here's a good question, Candace. You've spoken at a rally, and I assume you plan to speak it more when possible. What do you choose to say? How do you know, depending on the theme? Obviously, I most of the time I assume it's veteran based, focused, which makes sense. How do you know what to say? Like, do you go from your heart? Do you want to put facts? Like, that's a weird balance.
I go between both, and I go between and I also relate it to what's happening currently. I also look into like credible news sources to make sure that I am fact checking my information that I'm pushing out, because I believe in pushing out the most recent, authentic, message and information.
No fake news.
That's hard to do these days. That's really hard to do these days.
Well, yeah, actually, you can't go up there and spout statistics and numbers. You can generalize for emotional effect and for dramatic effect.
I think because of my veteran background, my background being in corrections and being a Black woman, having to go up against racist rhetoric and hitting glass ceilings, I can speak from the heart, and it really is impactful.
I think that's what people want, though. They're tired of the bullshit, and they're tired of being told these statistics and numbers. Like, we don't care. Trillions of dollars. Like, it's hard to comprehend trillions of dollars. That's why nobody's freaking out about it. Because, okay, it's like, to me, it's a made-up number, like trillions of dollars. I don't even have hundreds of dollars. So, like, how am I possibly going to fathom trillions? You know what I'm saying? So I think it's just people are tired of numbers. And I think we have to hit that emotional trigger for these people in order for them to really comprehend. And like me, you know me with the show, like I'm all about like, oh my God, this is happening. And then you're right, Mike. It's like I can't go to my friends and be like, they're taking over and Palantir and Elon Musk sound like an insane person, dog. It's crazy.
Well, the difference is we realize that as insane as it sounds, we can back it up with evidence and proof, but we're not going to spout it from a rooftop, because then you look like a tinfoil hat goofball. Right. It's just the way it is.
I've been trying to get a hold of Hassan Piker on this one because I think this is something he would be interested in and listen to. So I've been tagging him. So if you guys can't tag Hassan Piker, I want to talk to him about
let's keep going.
He would believe me. Yes, please.
1963 March on Washington. More than 200,000 protesters gathered for a peaceful demonstration outside the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. to call for racial equality in August 1963. There, MLK Jr. delivered his now iconic I Have a Dream speech. The protest put pressure on President JFK to push forward civil rights policies. I mean, we're not going to deny that. That was a turning point in America. That was a protest. It was a rally. Somehow it did not go violent, and it literally changed the course of American and world history.
Right, which they are trying to roll back currently.
Side note. Here we go. Now I get into the fun one. 1970, not all protests go well. Kent State University anti-war gathering. Around 3,000 people gathered for an anti-war rally on the commons of Kent State University, May 4th, 1970. Ohio National Guardsmen, who had been called to campus after protesters and local police had a violent confrontation the week before, fired at the protesters, killing 4 and injuring another 9 people. The shootings triggered student strikes nationwide and began the slide into Watergate, eventually destroying the Nixon administration. Ripple effects. More protest, more people start taking notice, people's emotions start linking with their minds, with their hearts, and seeing what's on TV, and you realize you are more connected. People knew deep down that no matter what, you can't have the military firing on students.
Bro, I'm seeing citizens standing up, entire communities standing up to armed ICE agents.
Now, by the way,
I mean, it's
they like to say it was an armed conflict between police and protesters. The protesters were sitting there. The police were spraying them with gas and stuff right in their faces while they were sitting there, and they fought back with their hands. It wasn't like they came to a knife fight with a gun and shot at police. It wasn't like they were even throwing rocks at police. So it wasn't a violent protest. It was a crackdown on free speech on campus. That then the state went, wow, we should have military there. That'll make sense. But you cannot be afraid, and that's what they want. They want us to be afraid. And what's going to happen is after No King's Day, when they see all these people in big towns, big cities, small towns, we had Liz McIntyre Sunday talking about there's this little protest she's going to go to up in Massachusetts. She didn't even know this town knew that they had a TV station, and somehow they know there's a No Kings protest, right?
Right.
People are going to see how big this is, and the administration is going to react. We'll see.
Well, I live in a city of 35,000 people, and we get protests now. You know what I mean? People in the streets. And I know for a fact some of them voted for Trump because I talked to them. You know what I mean? So they're out in the streets too.
All right,
he's losing support on a daily basis.
This is where I wanted to get into 2, what I would call protest movements that in some ways changed the world for the better. Some ways didn't quite have the outcome it should have. And what I mean is the Stonewall incident and the Black Panther movement. I'm going to go through them. They're very similar in what their ideology is. The path that each had to unfortunately take was very different. So let's take a look. We got the Stonewall riot or protest. Apparently, this is the only known photograph taken during the first night of the riots by freelance photographer Joseph Ambrosini. Shows LGBT youth scuffling with police. So if you don't know, what is Stonewall? And by the way, quick thing. Anyone who's been watching for a while might know my good friend Tammy. She is actually going on a Northeast vacation. She's going to be stopping around here.
Nice.
And we're going to go visiting Stonewall because we have never seen it, and I'm very excited to see that.
That's cool.
Geeking out for it. Anyway, okay. The police raid on June 28, 1969, police raided the Stonewall Inn, a gay bar known for being a safe space for LGBTQ plus individuals, including those who were marginalized or underaged. Resistance. Patrons and onlookers who had grown weary of police harassment and social discrimination resisted the raid, leading to a riot that began with throwing objects at the police. Spontaneous protest. The protests continued for several days with demonstrations in the surrounding neighborhood and at Christopher Park. It is a symbolic act. The Stonewall riots were a turning point, signifying a shift from a primarily underground and often persecuted community to a more visible and assertive one. What people need to understand is it was a gay bar, but it wasn't like allowed to be a gay bar, because we're talking about a time when being gay was all but illegal in New York, let alone the rest of the country. Okay.
Right.
So we had police going in there to harass people for no reason other than they were like, let's harass these gay people. That's it. That's literally it. And that was the straw when the police, for no reason, invaded the safe space, one of the very few, probably on one hand, safe spaces that a community has. What do you think is going to happen? Are they the victim? Are they the aggressor? Or are they responding to a threat against their freedom and their identity?
Yeah.
Because it could just be me, but that shit's still going on. And we still excuse police, whether it's the gay community, black communities, brown communities. Police are just doing their job. Are they? I don't know. Harassing people isn't just doing their job.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, let's not forget, weren't the first cops like basically they were like slave catchers?
They were slave patrol, yeah.
Right.
Pinkertons, it was all slave patrol.
Right. That's how cops started. Okay, the police force. That's what they used to do. So if you don't ever think that the entire police force, like their whole DNA, is racism, and mistreating people. That's what they do.
So I'm going to go through a little more background, but this one will give you a little more information on the overall scope of what the riots led to. Stonewall riots, also known as the Stonewall Uprising, Rebellion, or the Revolution, or simply Stonewall, were a series of spontaneous riots and demonstrations against a police raid that took place in the early morning hours of 1969 in the Greenwich Village neighborhood of Lower Manhattan in New York. Although the demonstrations were not the first American LGBTQ people fought back against government-sponsored persecution of sexual minorities, that's an interesting term, the Stonewall riots marked a new beginning for the gay rights movement in the United States and around the world. Was it a riot? Was it a rally? Or was it a protest? Well, the first Pride marches were 1 year after the Stonewall Uprising on June 28, 1970, same year as the Kent State shooting, by the way. Interesting to note. The first Pride marches were organized in multiple cities, including New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago. Christopher Street Liberation Day. The New York City march, known as Christopher Street Liberation Day, was held in the streets of Manhattan and attracted thousands of participants. The first Pride marches served as a way to commemorate the Stonewall riots, demand equal rights, and assert LGBTQ plus visibility. They were a powerful demonstration of the growing LGBTQ plus rights movement. In other words, you cannot just squeeze us into oblivion because you're uneducated bigots. We will not take it anymore. When you corner, I hate using this term, but I'm going to use it, an animal in the corner. In other words, if you corner humans in the corner and you're trying to threaten their life, their existence, their identity, their livelihood, they are going to fight back. Mm-hmm. That's it. No. Oppression breeds rebellion. It is not that complicated.
Let me ask Candace a question real quick. So, like, I don't know, anybody that's involved in like civil rights stuff or even American history, I guess I have a favorite civil rights story. Like, do you have a favorite civil rights leader or story that kind of inspires you to get into this? Or
oh my goodness, what doesn't? I think I couldn't even pick just one civil rights leader that inspires me. I feel like I'm
I know it's a hard question.
I'm trying to like there's so many powerful people who have stepped forward to speak up against oppression.
Right.
That's a big question.
Okay, I know it is a big question. Okay, I'll let you get back to me on that
but
one. Yeah.
Listen, but I'm gonna say one thing. My role in the military, my job in the military was a cop. I was a cop for 13 years in the military.
Great question. That's a great point. I mean,
and so when I was stationed in Japan is a very docile country, but the Marine Corps had aircraft over there that were disturbing the local residences with their training exercises. They were called ospreys. So in response, what Japan did in Okinawa is they flew protesters from mainland Japan to protest the military base where the osprey was.
No kidding. Wow.
And these were the most peaceful protesters that we've ever encountered because military police, we deal with them. So we had a set of rules of how to deal with them. All they would do was they would block off the entrance to the base, and they would put, their posters up. No ospreys, bad plane.
It is a bad plane. I love that.
Dealing with that, like in that capacity. And I was also a part of my guard unit when the Freddie Gray riots happened. I live in Baltimore, and my unit was activated for those riots.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
And so I was working inside of the jail. I managed to ease out of that duty, and I managed to go because they mobilized so many of us for those. If you've seen the way that was handled by the Baltimore City Police, it wasn't good. So I think just my experience of civil unrest, I think I'm becoming my own civil rights leader.
That's good. That's good though. Like, that's what we need. We need people to step up that are ready to lead. I think too many people are waiting to be told what to do. You know what I'm saying? Or where to go. But I think some people out there just have to be like, and you don't have to have any qualifications to do what we do. You don't.
Jeremy and I
All
have
you have
no
to do
idea
is be
what we're
set up
doing.
enough.
Right. All you do
Be
have to
set up
stand on
enough.
business. Right. If you have, you know, choose, I don't know how else to say it, but yeah, you just got to stand on business. Like one day you're just going to be like, this is enough. I'm going to do something about it. But you know, there is risks in the current environment with protesting. I think it's worth mentioning. There always is risks. So I guess that's pretty much Mike's whole point. There's always risks to protesting, no matter what generation you're from, no matter what you're protesting. Somebody somewhere is not going to like it. So that's why we always tell people be peaceful.
Free speech, Dick.
They want us to get violent. That's what they're waiting for.
Yep. So, perspective and history, which when they try and erase it is hard to get perspective. That's the point. Anyway, I'm going to close out Stonewall with someone that should be, mentioned. I don't know much about her other than what I've researched. I have heard her name in the past, but Marsha P. Johnson, why we owe black pride to transgender women who threw bricks at cops. That headline alone is enough to make MAGA's heads fucking explode
Yes.
like people.
Right.
Okay, because they will never understand. They think they do because they're dumb and uneducated, and a lot of the choices they made in their lives led them to where they are, and a lot of things were out of their control. But they think they are not as bad off as those black people or those trans people. Well, guess what? If it wasn't for people like Marsha P. Johnson, we wouldn't have gay marriage in this country. And I know MAGA would be okay with that, but that would break my heart. So we do owe a debt. And let me go into a little about who she was. Many in the LGBT community credit transgender activist Marsha P. Johnson for throwing the first brick or shot glass that sparked the riots. Though Johnson said she didn't arrive at the bar until rioting was underway, nevertheless, her role is hailed. Black transgender women are murdered at an alarming rate. They have a bleak life expectancy between 35 and 37 years old. Okay. Well, they receive an average income of annual $10,000, well below the poverty line. According to the Human Rights Campaign, at the time of press, at least 10 of them have been murdered already this year. This was a couple of years ago, and many more fear for their lives. My point in bringing this up is the most attacked group of people are going to have to fight the hardest. They are going to be victimized the most. Okay, in this climate, the reason I myself bring up transgender rights all the time is because it is currently the scapegoat the entire Republican Party is using. We think it's the immigrants. No, they're just hate brown people. Right. They are scapegoating. It's just like, satanic panic. That D&D book will get your kids in school. Now it's the transgender people are going to take your kids in school. They need a scapegoat right now.
Transgender mice.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Transgenic mice.
They're good at creating false panic over problems that don't even exist.
And the attack on transgender people in the military.
That's tragic. Yep. Yeah, that's awful.
Which is not that it matters if it was 100% or whatever. We're talking like.
And most of the people that are happy about the transgender being in the military have never even served. Like, if you know what I mean? Shut the fuck up. Especially like Donald Trump. You haven't served a goddamn day in your life. You know what I mean?
I bet one of his bone spurs is gay.
I bet he's gay. He talks a lot about men's junk. I'm sorry.
Just a little bit of info. This is Stonewall, and again, I cannot freaking wait to go there. It might be one of those moments where I get a little weepy. I tend to do that around things.
That's all right.
Anyway, so on to the Black Panther movement, which I know even less about. I would love to do an extended show about with anyone who knows more.
This is one of my favorite, and it's one of the most fucked up stories you'll ever read about.
So, the Black Panther Party. I like to call it a movement, but hey, what do I know? So, the Black Panther Party protested against police brutality and systematic racism, particularly targeting the Oakland Police Department, and advocated for Black self-determination and empowerment. Their protests often involved armed patrols and demonstrations, aiming to challenge police authority and protect Black communities from what they perceived as oppressive actions. Now, before you go all white idiot on me, not anyone here, I'm talking to the general people who might be white idiots. Okay.
There's a lot out there.
If you read what I just said as a racist, you're not going to hear what really happened. If you read it like an open-minded adult, what you're going to see is They were sick of being intimidated by police patrols that did not need to happen, but were done just to try and scare them into submission and behave. Okay. What did Jeremy say earlier? What did the American police come from? Slave patrols. So,
Unbelievable.
Black Panther Party started as a way for black people to police their own communities because they knew white police were not going to do it. In fact, they were going to harass them, maybe instigate them. Who knows? So this was a movement. This is after the Tulsa massacre. This is after Reconstruction and all these eras of promises broken to black people and continued harassment by authority and the government. And they were like, fuck you. We're going to learn how to use guns. We're going to buy guns. And that's why now people don't realize all those white rednecks with guns, you better watch your ass, because
there's a new movement. There is a new Black Panther.
I've seen a lot of trans people, a lot of video with trans people learning how to use weapons and showing themselves buying guns. You know what? Yeah. I'm not a gun guy.
Well, the one story that
do to protect yourself
that I read about with it was Chairman. What the hell is his last name? Fred Hampton. Fred Hampton was his last name. He was one of the chapter leaders for the Black Panther Party, and the cops got somebody to infiltrate his organization, work his way to the top, and then eventually they drugged him, and then the cops came into the home and basically assassinated him while he was sleeping, while his wife was pregnant in the other room. And the only reason they hated this guy is because he was trying to bring other communities together, multiple communities. It wasn't just about the black community.
Why?
It was about the Latino community, even the white community. He was trying to bring people together,
unite people,
and that freaks people out.
And here's the thing, they keep us separated, like I said earlier, by arbitrary constructs. If people just fucking realize that it's the few rich people against all the poor people, no matter what fucking color they are, maybe we'll fix something in this country. But, you know, anyway, okay, so a little more. Who is Huey P. Newton? A prominent figure in the Black Panther Party, Newton was a co-founder and played a key role in the party's development and ideology. Party was a significant force in the Black Power movement, advocating for self-determination and community empowerment. Newton was convicted of manslaughter and sentenced to prison, sparking the Free Huey campaign. This campaign involved rallies, protests, and public awareness efforts to garner support for Newton's release. It actually happened. Newton was ultimately released from prison in 1970, partly due to public pressure and the effectiveness of the Free Huey campaign. Now, I hope either of you have any more information about that, because I don't. I would like to know the circumstances. But if I understand, it very likely had something to do with either a self-defense or a blatant false claim. I do want to do a show on it, so we'll get into that one day. But my point is that if they just freed him, clearly there was some bullshit going on. If he was legitimately convicted of legitimate manslaughter, they would not have just released him, right? Like, is that something I can rely on? So my point is, the leaders of these movements must be stopped. The LGBTQ community had Harvey Milk, right? These communities have leaders, just like we were talking. We need leaders in the anti-fascist movement, for lack of a better term, the current one. You know, leaders rise up, and those are your figureheads. And what do you do when you try and oppress people? You take out the figureheads. Americans are going to have to get to the point where we are not afraid of being shot at by our government. And that is so difficult. Myself, I'm going to be a coward. I've never been around a gunshot. The first time I hear one, I'm going to probably shit myself. But you know what?
Yeah.
We're all going to need to get used to that, because we don't know what's coming, and we're going to keep protesting, and they're going to push back. And either we're going to win before we have to defend ourselves, or they're going to do something that causes us to defend ourselves.
I mean, we say it all the time on this show, Candace. I don't know if you agree with me, because a lot of people say, "Oh, you're trying to incite violence." No, I'm not. But resistance only lasts so long.
I'm surprised that people are holding out this long. I'm just going to be honest with you. I looked at things from a different lens. To be honest with, as soon as he got elected, I said we should have been in the streets. So I'm surprised that all this has taken this long. I'm like, man, it's gonna be like a dam breaking when the floodgates open.
Oh yeah. And I think a lot of it has to do with comfortability. I wasn't like hesitant to go to a protest, but for years, like I was like, all right, I guess whatever. And I didn't know what to do. I was like, do you just show up? And then did the show. We learned a little bit about it. And fuck, I love going to them now. I love,
I've been
like I
to
said,
6
being
this
around
year.
people that are all fighting for it. I love the little comments. Everyone you go to is like, fuck Trump or stupid fascist, dumb Elon.
Right.
And you're just like, this is a community of people that person definitely voted for Trump. That person, who knows? That person, who knows? But we're all here for a common goal. And we're going to need to see more of that. So,
and again, we don't have to be friends with the MAGAs that show up at the protest. They just had a realization on their own that they fucked up. It doesn't mean we have to be friends with them because they're the reason we're in the situation. So, like I said, if you want to come, we'll welcome you at the protest. We're not going to treat you like that you voted for Donald Trump. We're not going to sit here and berate you. But at the same time, after you leave the protest, don't expect to join the group chat, be like all buddy and shit. You know what I'm saying?
The
Like
least you can do is show up with your head held at a straight angle. It doesn't have to be high. You don't have to be shrinking, but just fucking sit there and listen.
Just be humble. You know what I'm saying? You learn a lesson. Now, like, just be humble, sit down, and just enjoy the environment of happiness and joy.
Yeah. Oh God, people are so comfortable in their ignorance. Like I am uncomfortable when I don't know something. I'm like, what the fuck?
I am too.
What is this?
I am. It bothers me. Like if I read something or see a video about something, I am obsessed with it until I figure out if it's factual or not, or I just want to know more about it. It's just
people are
how
just
I am.
afraid to not believe what they did believe, and I don't understand that. I do
Your
not.
Beliefs are supposed to change. Your beliefs are supposed to change over. You
evolve as you get older. Society evolves. You get more experience. Your perspective changes. It's as simple as this: when you're a toddler, 1 year, when you're 1 year old, that was your whole fucking life. That's a long time. Now at 43. It's not that long. A year is not that fucking long anymore.
No, dude, I wish they would slow the hell down.
Shit changes. We can't act like little ignorant babies our whole life. You can't.
No.
Anyway,
tell that to Congress. Tell that to
the yeah, right. Okay. One thing I wanted to get into, primarily because I know, Jeremy, you don't know anything about what I'm about to show you, and I want to shock you. You think what you're seeing now is some racist, bigoted shit? Just wait. So the right wing protests too.
Do they?
It's not just, of course they do, but it's important to see what they're protesting for and what their values are and the success of
their bitch
protests.
asses except for the masks.
Oh no, I'm going back, Jeremy. Oh boy.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Oh, I am. Overall, the history of right-wing protests in America is a complex and evolving narrative shaped by social, economic, and political factors. So, in other words, racism and bigotry.
Yeah.
From early anti-government movements to contemporary issues, right-wing protests continue to play a significant role in American political discourse and social life. Right-wing protests often reflect a desire to preserve, quote, that should be in quote, social and cultural norms, resist government intervention, and defend national identity. Great. Themes of nativism, anti-globalization, and anti-establishment sentiment are frequently presented in right-wing protests.
And they
religious conservatism, particularly around issues like abortion and same-sex marriage, also fuel right-wing activism. The rise of nativism and anti-immigrant sentiment in the 19th century led to protests against Catholic immigrants and immigrants from Asia. The KKK, founded in 1865, they could go fuck off, represented a long-standing tradition of white supremacist protest and violence. If you don't know about the history of the KKK protesting, please go look it up. Go to YouTube. The amount of protesting, the volume of it, the despicable nature of it, and who they had protesting with them, little kids in robes, will sicken you.
Now they're just called Patriots Front.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. In the 20th century, protests against the Vietnam War and the Civil Rights Movement saw significant right-wing opposition. The Tea Party movement in the 2000s, while not exclusively right-wing, drew significant right-wing participation and focused on opposition to government spending and regulations. Like, take that description, and now I'm going to show you what they were really protesting. Candace, do you remember this stuff? The Tea Party jackasses?
Oh,
Jeremy, I know this was before you paid attention to this stuff.
Absolutely. I did pay attention to that. Yes.
You know what I'm about to show him. Okay.
Oh my God.
I want you to look at these. I want everyone to actually look at these.
Yeah.
I don't see a single message of anything to do with anything that article said.
What the fuck is wrong with these people?
Oh, you think those are the worst? Hold on. These are just some goofy people.
Oh
And one of my
God.
Yep.
Wearing tea bags. That tracks. That
No, but
actually
what does that
tracks.
remind you of? Garbage bags when they're called trash.
Bandages on their ears when Donald Trump supposedly got shot.
Oh,
Oh
Westboro.
my
How could we forget about them?
Ah, that's what I
God.
wanted to sneak in there.
How could we forget about Westboro with what was it? Their leader's name?
What?
Goodness.
Oh,
Why these people are reprehensible, man?
hold on. Was it? Fuck. Wait. Was it Sarah Palin? No. Is it a woman? Who
It
was their
was a
leader?
man. What was his name? Joe.
I don't even know. I'm lost.
I'm gonna look it up.
I remember
This was,
Bro, these people got
Jeremy, this
issues.
was peak. Holy fuck, we survived the Bush era. I can't believe the Iraq war happened. 9/11 was really shitty.
Man.
And then we were
Yeah.
like, and we're going to vote a black man into office. Boom! Republicans' brains fucking exploded.
And
Yeah.
the problem is now we have a president that indulges in these psychotic people. Like this guy's reposting stories
Candace,
that
Fred Phelps. Is that who?
That's what I was looking at.
I got some old white guy in a cowboy hat.
That's what I was looking
That doesn't narrow it down.
that's a lot of white guys.
He served as the pastor of Westboro Baptist Church.
I have no idea.
Anyway,
has lost
whatever.
me.
They don't deserve our fucking effort. But
No.
Jeremy, that's like when we see now what's going on with MAGA and the stuff that they're being vocal about. Here's the difference. When it was the Tea Party and the Westboro Baptist Church people, it was the people. Now we have the politicians echoing that shit. The MAGA movement put politicians that speak this way and are proud of these beliefs in the public view. That's what the difference is in the danger.
I wholeheartedly feel like we need to go back to the old way sometimes of protesting. I'm talking about throwing rotten cabbages at people.
Oh, yeah.
I'm talking about throwing rotten tomatoes, all of these crops that are going, like, I'm talking about getting back to some kind, like, as much civil unrest as possible, within reason, without being violent.
I agree. See, every time I talk about, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
There's so many ways that you can disrupt and
cause. Yes, thank you.
Perfect. Let's take it back to basics.
I agree. No, I agree. Because I always talk about revolution and everybody's like, oh, you're promoting violence. I'm like, revolution has nothing to do with violence. It's 100% about disruption. Disrupt. Stop these people dead in their tracks. But again, we have to be united. We have to figure out a way. And Donald Trump is basically doing our job for us. He's uniting the entire country against himself. Even his own.
And this is a fundamental thing. We've been saying this for years now, and I've always believed this. If you don't realize that Trump is a puppet, you're an idiot. And when you look at him like the puppet he is, we were just talking about this before the show. Steve Bannon today is like going in on Trump. Yes. And what Trump doesn't understand, because he's too ignorant, too stupid, too demented, and he's a child, is that he's not actually important. He didn't get the MAGA voters. Steve Bannon convinced people to become MAGA voters. Yep. So if you're losing Steve Bannon, you already almost lost. Who's the guy with the big gums? Oh, I hate that fuck. Charlie Kirk.
Oh, Charlie.
You're losing Nick Fuentes. It's like, wow, this guy's doing a little too much. He shouldn't have taken the plane. You're losing a lot of right-wing support. Yeah. What people don't understand is the MAGA people don't listen to Trump. They listen to the radio host that they can understand, because no one knows what the fuck Trump is saying. So when they hear him speak, they're just like, yeah, libs. But when they're home and they're driving home from work, they're listening to Steve Bannon. They're listening to people like when Rush Limbaugh was unfortunately plaguing this planet. Right. So if you lose him, if you lose them, Trump has no sounding board. They will not follow him. Because the other problem
I don't think they realize it.
People like Bannon wormed their way into the consciousness of these people. Mm-hmm. Then he could convince them to do anything. He convinced them to vote for Trump. All he has to do is go, Trump is an alien that was replaced by a robot. And they'll be like, fuck.
Right.
Well, Fox News turned on him today because Elon's done. He's actually coming out saying he's against the big, beautiful bill. You got Marjorie Taylor Greene, another person in Congress, be like, I didn't even read it.
She said she didn't fucking
read it. Oh my God.
If I was a congressperson, let me tell you something. I understand you guys spent time on campaigning. If I was a congressperson, do you know the geek eruptions that would happen if I just got to read legislation. I'd be like, we're doing government. This is fun. Like, how much fun would that be? I'd be honored to be able to spend my day reading fucking government laws and legislation. That'd be the coolest job in the entire planet to me.
Didn't even read
Whatever.
it. And they're
I'm
admitting
also
they
a dork.
didn't read it. That's the scary part. So you elected
You mean you
people
didn't
that
read
not
it?
only
You can't read it. I know that.
well, some of them can't. I highly doubt Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene can
So,
read it.
before we close out with just discussing the protest this Friday, because I want you guys to just like have fun with that. I want to show it's just a small bit, and I mentioned it a few times in passing. Protesting works. It isn't a quick fix. It isn't a coup. It isn't a military operation. It is a prolonged pronouncement of the morality that a people want to uphold. And you got to keep going. And you got to make them make the first move, because then they solidify themselves as the oppression. But I want to point out, it's not just protesting. I say this all the time. We will do our best to bring people images of protests that we can go to. But you could boycott. That's a protest. And guess what? The Target boycott is said to be the most successful Black boycott of a company since the Montgomery bus boycott, with a $12 billion valuation loss, steep stock drops, and the CEO having his pay cut almost in half. And when that was an interesting thing. I did a little more research. I myself and my wife, we don't go to Target. When I tell you that hurts me in my heart that I can no longer go there for Halloween decorations and Christmas decorations, I cannot understate that. But it is more important to stand up for my principles. And the reason I say that is this is a Black-led protest, because the more and more you research the Target boycott, there are Black leaders pushing it. There's a lot of people that shop there. People don't understand the amount of people that shop at different places. It doesn't all look like you where you don't live. Just because you might not see, there are whole communities that have Targets where there's just Black people living, or, anyone else. So guess what? This is another example of Black people pulling the fucking weight. Something Jeremy and I believe very firmly. White people, white guys, fucking do something. Get out there and protest. Do something.
Please.
All right, the floor is both of yours. Talk about Friday.
Candace, yeah. So are you excited for Friday?
I am super excited for Friday, especially because we have the opportunity to have access to some really awesomely prominent people.
Yeah, we know for a fact Adam Kinzinger is going to be there. Senator Tammy Duckworth's going to be there. Dropkick Murphys are performing there. And we are going to be, Candace and I both are going to be in the media tent with our little official media credentials.
Yes.
That's crazy. That's great. That's not something I thought I would say when we started the show a year and a half ago. I did not think I would ever have media credentials to something like this. So this is awesome. Thank you so much for I don't know, not, I guess, metaphorically holding my hand through this, because I don't know if I can do this alone. So I'm so glad you're going to be there, and I'm glad you're representing the fight against fascism in DC as well. So yeah, other than that, do you have anything else going on, or do you want to promote any of your social medias while you're on here?
If anyone wants to follow me, my social media is the Fit Siren on TikTok. So you can follow me on there. If you're gonna be out this weekend, make sure you find me in person, so we can connect. And even if you don't show up in person, there's always things that you can do from your computer. There's always things that you could do from your phone. So thanks for being out here with us, everyone, and let's fight the good fight.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for coming on. I'm very much looking forward to seeing you again. I was gonna say meet you, but we've already met in real life. I've met so many people this last year and a half, man. It makes my head swim, because I used to have such a small bubble, and now I know so many people. Good people too. That's the crazy part. I've met so many good people online as a result of this.
We do always talk about how many people we meet, and I've been vocal about the fact that I have met and spoken to more veterans than I have ever known in my life. There have been veterans in both sides of my family, and I love that. But I think it is not the burden of veterans, of people who have served, to serve again. But I think the more veterans aren't necessarily leading this fight, but are part of the visible front of this fight, will get Americans to really start thinking about things. Because myself included, I used to think that all veterans were just crusty white guys that hated everything. And you know what? That is so fucking far from the truth. I am embarrassed to say it, but I will say it because it's important to
That's
show
the
growth.
point. That's the whole
Let
thing,
me
though.
tell you,
Growth,
I
right?
believe
Exactly.
that movement will succeed. The anti-fascist movement will succeed if and only if veterans are supported and put in the forefront, so that we can lead. They can lead by example.
Yep.
Because
And just
people need to see it. That it's not just shitty white guys that never served complaining. That it's people who
Right.
put their life out there, their time, their oaths to the Constitution. That's what they need to see.
And
Yeah.
keep in mind too, like the military really does lead the way in a lot of social issues as well. Like desegregation, for example, is a good one. Like the military does a lot of times do things before, like people think it's all strict and all, but they actually do accept a lot more people than everyday society does. And it's a shame to see the Trump administration try to make that contribution null and void with the stroke of a pen, and we'll never let it happen. And we're going to be out in the streets a lot this month, especially Friday. Like I said, we'll be in the media tent. I'm going to be live streaming the whole thing. Thanks to a very special donation from Priscilla today. You saved my ass again. This is the third time she's come in a clutch for this show. She's donated quite a bit of money to the show. So I love you. I thank you. And as a result, I was able to get some brand new equipment for just the protest. That will be here tomorrow. So I'm very excited. I'm not going to go. I'm going to look like I know what I'm doing.
What are you wearing?
Oh, yeah. I
need to know.
completely
This is
forgot to order
important.
our shirts. No, we have merch, and I don't even own our own
What was
shirt.
the shirt you showed the other day? Oh, Tariff D's nuts. Please.
Yeah, Tariff. I made a shirt that
Please
says
don't wear
Tariff
that
D's
one.
nuts. I'm like, it's how hot. It has an arrow pointing down.
That's sorry for sure.
I'm sorry. I'm so.
love
They
it.
should have never gave me access to making my own merch.
You
That was a
shouldn't
mistake.
have access to the internet.
I know, right? All right, Candace, thank you so much. It was lovely having you on the show. I appreciate your time. And I will text you Friday. I'm going to leave my house very, very early. I'll probably text you on the road, and then I'll let you know when I get there and parked and everything.
We will talk prior, definitely.
All right. Thank you so much. And looking forward to seeing you on Friday. Have a good night, everybody.